Hey, welcome everybody. We hope everybody is in a wonderful mood. It is time for episode 8 of the Brain Trust. Bitcoin went over 93,000. Tesla went up 100 points after the election. IWM actually went up for a change. It might stay up. Who the heck knows these days? And of course, we have to bring the gang together to figure out what is going on in this market. Okay, so we're going to start with Bitcoin. Obviously, this is the story of the season. Now, JR, you've been everybody's been bullish on Bitcoin, but JR, yesterday you talked about, or the day before maybe, you talked about Bitcoin going through 91,000 as a possibility. What's next for Bitcoin here?
Well, let me share my chart. Every time I give these Bitcoin targets, people look at me like I'm in the I should be going to the loony bin.
JR should be going to the loony bin. Let's just be clear about that.
It's all preposterous. This whole move is preposterous. But, as day traders, we listen to the chart. So, we started accumulating Bitcoin here on point of control, 62.5 to 63, waiting for the right side of the cup to break the brim. And my target was this top line, 91,500. We took a quarter position off here today. But the bigger measured move on the cup, if you're just doing really classic technical analysis, takes you to 126,000. And it just pains me, to say that because it sounds so absolutely absurd. But that's what the chart is telling me. You're going to need to consolidate here for a few weeks, but I think that's where we're going.
Okay, 126,000, very bold, which I like. Okay, Sami, we'll go to you. So, Sami, last week I asked you about Bitcoin. You said it's sustainable, flat out. Do you still like Bitcoin like JR?
I said what?
You said the Bitcoin move is sustainable, that it's going to last.
Yeah. Now we're starting to get a little climactic, by the way, on Bitcoin. But yes, it was looking lovely. Look, the trend is always, you have to assume that the trend is sustainable unless we go climactic. I'll give you a very clear case of a climactic move that's not sustainable, especially when you get a gap down. China, that's a very classic case of a trend that's not sustainable because it went vertical. But if the trend is up like this, that's totally sustainable. Now, Bitcoin is starting to go a bit vertical. So I think we may be at a pretty soon we'll be at a short-term top. But yeah, that's why I said it was sustainable, because it's like 45 degree. It was, at least at the time. Now it's starting to get a little bit vertical. So that, I hope that makes sense. Whereas compare that to China, how China went vertical. And so when it dropped, it's over, because it's not gonna, when it pops, it's done. Like all the buying is done. So that's how I can tell whether a trend is sustainable or not. And sometimes, the stock goes climactic and then also starts to kind of base and not like fall apart. Okay, then you can say, well, it looked like it was going to be a blow off top, but then it stabilized and continued higher, but wasn't the case in China. And right now, I think, as I said, still on Bitcoin, even if we come in a little bit, I think it'll be only a short-term top, not a long-term top. So I would still say sustainable. Mike.
Okay, Derrick. So you told us last week. You said the Bitcoin chart looks fantastic, but you're not trading it. Why not join in on the fun, Derrick? Everybody wants you at the party. Why aren't you jumping in and actually trading Bitcoin?
First of all, shout out to JR for actually showing a legitimate cup and handle pattern. I feel like that's one of the most misquoted technical patterns that I see from people, and that was a legitimate one, and it looked like that was a multi-year pattern. So even if it gets up to that technical target of the cup and handle, it probably doesn't get there in a week, and there will be plenty of opportunities to trade it in both directions. And then, like Sami said, it seems a little climactic here. It's starting to really extend higher. I don't give a rat's butt about Bitcoin. I don't want to be involved in this crap, to be honest. I don't care if it can make me money. There's a million things I can trade that can make me money. I have been short Coinbase the last couple of days. I got out of the position a little bit before we started our session here today. So that's did really well for me the last 2 days. It's been one of my best names. But I do think some of these things, like Bitcoin, at least in the short run, are starting to get a little bit climactic here. So maybe I should. Maybe money on the short side. Like Sami was saying before we came on, I'm apparently I'm the big bear. I'm the big short seller out here. So watch out. Watch out if I start hitting the short sell button. What's the levered Bitcoin ETF to give me something to short?
Is there a levered Bitcoin ETF?
Leveraged, yes, BITX, but it's the futures ETF for it's base BITO basically. It's leveraged BITO. BITX is
great. That's a good one to short if the borrow is reasonable.
Our friend 7 of 9 is saying MSTX. Okay, so this is going to bring us to, of course, the best part of the show, which is 2 truths and a lie. And how it works is I'm going to make 3 statements. One of them is a lie. Try to guess the lie. So everybody in the audience, you better try to guess the lie. And today's theme is the Trump trade, because obviously this is what everybody's wondering. Is this going to last? Now, last week we had 2 champions, which has never happened before. Derrick and Sami. JR came in last. It was very, very sad. So we're going to see who can win this week. I have a lot of confidence in everybody, so I want you guys to try your best. Okay, so which one is the lie? IBIT is up over 20% in November. Tesla is beating Amazon year to date. And number 3, MicroStrategy has a bigger market cap than Target. And by the way, if anybody in the audience can explain what MicroStrategy does, we would really, really appreciate it. So who's going to step up and make a guess?
I'm going to say that number 2 is the lie. Because it's a lot of catch up. Like Tesla was the really big underperforming Mag 7 name for pretty much all this calendar year until the election. It's played a lot of catch up since then, but I don't know if it's enough to catch up to those other ones. And Amazon's on fire.
I'm going with Derrick also on number 2. It's either number 2 or number 1, but I think it's number 2.
Okay, JR?
JR, be a winner with us, JR. Be a winner with us.
JR, can you pick a number between 1 and 3, please, so we can move on with our lives? Oh, wait, he's muted.
He's muted. I'm muted. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You were muted, so please give us.
I quoted Bill O'Reilly. I said, "F it, we'll do it live." I'll go with 1.
Okay, so we have another tie this week. Number 2 is the lie. Amazon is actually beating Tesla year to date. Big I
better keep my day job, Michael. I'm terrible at this game.
It's getting, but JR, I have faith. You're an American. You can come back. You can do this. I have a lot of faith in you. Okay, so let's move on to our other friend, Tesla. Now, I'm going to crown Sami the king of Tesla for when he interrupted me back in like April of 149 to say it was bottoming. So last week you said, and this was after the big gap up on the election, you said it still looks great long term. You said Tesla possibly going to 375. So Sami, do you still like Tesla?
I still like Tesla. I have 500 shares in it, which was up 56K as of yesterday. But you know, Tesla was like a pretty good setup. I'm trying to open up my charts. This is the setup that was available to us to get long. Was it last week or the week before on the pullback? Can I show my charts, Mike?
Yeah. Just hit the present button.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I have to do the present thing. So I'll just show you real quick. Not gonna take too much of your time, but there was a really nice setup on it. And again, I'll show you in just a second here. And this is not after the fact stuff. This is like, you know, I'm in it already. We talked about it last week also about the buy setup. Here it is. So here's the Tesla. I was not in it on the, you know, when it gapped up here, but this was an island reversal gap. This is actually a really bullish gap. I said to my neighbor, I have a neighbor in the building where I live. He's also a friend. We work out together. He has 10,000 shares of Tesla. 10,000 shares of Tesla. And I told him that Tesla is never going to see 215 again. And he said, what do you mean it's never going to see? It doesn't, the performance of the stock depend on the performance, the financial performance of the company? I said, yes, but I just mean from a technical point of view, this is an unbelievable gap, very, very bullish. And I didn't really like it on earnings necessarily, so I didn't get long on earnings. But look what it did. Pull back to the newly rising 20 MA, that curling 20 MA with a reversal bar and a buy setup. Beautiful. So if you didn't get long before earnings, okay, well, that was a gamble. No problem. You got the chance to buy it here. And so here it is, climactic. I did hedge yesterday. And I'm smiling because Mike and I go back and forth about hedging because it went climactic, but it looks like it's not going to fall apart. Notice how it's not producing any follow through to the downside. PLTR was also going climactic, and what happened to that climactic top? It's above it already. So that tells me, I think, that this move up in the market has more to go, is still going to be much higher, because the two most climactic stocks from the big names, at least that I'm aware of, were Tesla, which is not following through to the downside. Sure, it dropped 7% yesterday, and PLTR, which is also not following through to the downside. So that tells me the state of the market is actually really bullish, like more bullish than I even expected. So that's my take on Tesla, and that's my take on the market.
Interesting. And Sami did tell us last week, he said the market is really bullish. He said the indices are not extended. Okay, so Derrick, I think we should flip over to you, because I see you are short Tesla and Palantir at least of an hour ago. So just so people get an idea of timeframes, are these like short-term trades?
Yeah, so I'm bullish on the market. The market looks incredibly strong to me. I think that we continue to build out a bull flag in the indexes this week, and then after options X this week, we could set up for continuation and break higher next week. And I think that'll be enough of a time correction of a bull flag to give us continuation. But some of these stocks really extended higher, or to use Sami's phrase, got somewhat climactic. One of which was Tesla. I started shorting Tesla somewhat aggressively, not insane, into this like 350, above 350 area a couple trading sessions ago. So I was really patient on waiting for that short. And my initial target on that short was a pullback to 310. As this thing corrects more, so one of my favorite sayings when you have upside extension moves, and then I'm, sometimes a counter trend trader and coming in on the opposite side of that, is even though I'm short, I'll be the first to tell you that time is a bull's friend. So the more time that goes by where I don't get the pullback all the way down to 310, the less likely it is going to occur. So as time goes by, I tighten up my target on the short. So, started shorting it really aggressively 2 trading sessions ago on November 11th, traded it short all day yesterday, did very well with it, and then continued to short it again. I shorted into the gap up this morning and added all the way up to 345 into that opening run that it had, but not as aggressively as I was yesterday from a sizing perspective, because as time goes by, my target, which had been 310, increases. So yesterday I was like, if I can get a full-on price correction down, I could see this thing giving me a move down to 310. Now I'm like, all right, well, another day went by. Time is a bull's friend. So now I'm thinking 315 to 317. So I'm not taking as much size. I'm not looking for quite as big of a move. And then it's the same deal. I got a nice move down all the way to 323, and book profit all the way down. It's bouncing a little bit as we're talking. So I'll just be less and less aggressive as time goes by. So those are short-term trades. Palantir, very impressive how well Palantir held up yesterday. It seemed like most of the stocks that kind of went vertical on the Trump trade gave pretty big pullbacks yesterday, and Palantir was not one of them. It held in like an absolute champion. No pullback at all. Strong underlying bid. huge gap up this morning, continuation. But I started seeing a really big seller come into the level 2 at 63.25 on the first test of that area today. And I started, when I saw that, I sized up on a short in Palantir in a very, very big way. And then I continued to see that seller come in. Then at $63, you can see there was like 4 tests of 63 after that initial bounce there. And at one point, it was actually building a bullish ascending wedge into 63 on a 5-minute chart. And I was coming in and shooting the bullish ascending wedge because I'm using some tape reading skills, and I'm just seeing this massive, massive seller that's coming in up there at 63. And in my head, I'm like, okay, the stock is, well, two things can happen there. There's strong underlying demand that's creating that bullish
Derrick,
pattern.
sorry. Can you make sure your mic is fully plugged in, because you sound distorted?
Distorted. What else is new? I'm always having my problems. Am I better?
You sound better. You sound better now. So quickly. I know you were covering Palantir too. What do you see near term on Tesla and Palantir?
Quieted myself a little bit, but I think that's better. So I think Palantir is done in the short run. The stock is stupid up here, and there's a huge seller at $63. So I was massive. I took off maybe a third of that position just because risk management and booking profit. But I still have a really big short on right now in Palantir, and I'm looking for a price correction this extension. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm bearish. It's just that this is ridiculous up here. And sometimes I get so excited that my microphone tells me to relax a little bit.
We will start selling an alert service based on how broken Derrick's mic is. Okay, so JR, way back July 11th, you put a $300 price target on Tesla. Went past that. You sounded a little cautious on it last week. What do you think of Tesla up here?
So to just add to Derrick's point, on the 11:15 expiration, you've got HVL at 307.50 and put support at 300. So I could see a scenario where you kiss and tell at 310 into the November 22nd expiration, HVL at 312.50 as well. But the GEX profile really says higher, and in terms of context structure and roadmap, Tesla looks like a reaccumulative structure to 400, and that's what I told the room. I think we're going into a massively bullish period into the next 6 months, and there is a clear change of sentiment, a change of character in the market that's really been putting a lot of these ideas to the test successfully. So yeah, I think 400 is viable. We need to consolidate here. Tesla put in a 50% move in under a week. I mean, it's very typical Tesla, but I think there's still more upside given some time, right? We can correct through time or through price, and chasing Tesla here is a fool's errand. Intraday, we have some really clear levels, and I was telling my traders today, you try to short Tesla at 326.25 if you're not already short from higher levels, and you're cruising for a bruising because there's still an underlying bid there of a reaccumulative nature. So I've just been, my job so far this week has just been to try to keep people out of trouble in Tesla. It's not actionable to the long side currently, in my opinion. And it's a tricky short. Derrick took a really nice entry at 350. Now it's complicated.
Yes, isn't Tesla always complicated? Okay, let's move on to Nvidia. So Nvidia reports next week. The semis have kind of round tripped their post-election rally. Nvidia is showing little relative strength. So I'll bounce right back to you, JR. Is there any setup in Nvidia now? Should we just wait and see for earnings?
Nvidia looks really bullish to me on the daily chart. Again, I don't like to guess and gamble into earnings. There are people who have a unique talent for playing earnings, present company included. Sami does a great job. I prefer to trade the actual report and the aftermath It looks to me, in terms of general measured moves, that Nvidia is set up for a move to 200 in the next few months. We'll have, the bar is set so incredibly high for Nvidia that when it finally misses earnings, it's going to be an absolute wild feast for everyone involved on the short side. But I will believe a bad earnings report when I see one.
Okay. All right. Sami, since you do like to speculate on earnings quite a bit, do you have any opinion on, I know you need to see the final setup before earnings.
Exactly.
Do you have
I like it. I like it higher. But yes, you're right. I do need to see the final setup, like even the day before. When does it report?
Next Wednesday, 1 week from now.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see how it sets up into earnings. But as of right now, everything about it says higher. It's not running up into earnings, meaning there's not as much excitement and high expectations. It's just grinding up, going sideways. Actually, that's perfect. That's what you want. You want a stock that is really strong, which Nvidia undoubtedly is, but without the high expectations baked into the price of the stock. How do you know there's high expectations? Well, if there's a lot of people buying it ahead of earnings, if the stock is shooting up ahead of earnings, then you have that high expectations, which means still could gap up. But if the CEO even sneezes on the mic or whatever on the conference call, it might come in. So the way it is right now is just at the all-time high and going sideways. That is a beauty. So I will be looking to play it long, but of course I won't get in it until Wednesday, depending on how it looks then.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, Sami. Okay, Derrick, how about you? Any thoughts on our good friend Nvidia here?
The chart looks incredibly bullish. That 150 level just looks ripe for a breakout at this point. Was a little bit surprised that it was as weak as it was off the open today. The earnings report next week will be interesting. The only thing I have to add on to what Sami said is that yes, they have not been really, really ripping this thing higher into the earnings report. But I would say that compared to almost any other semiconductor name that you look at right now, it's had so much relative strength that maybe that relative strength is based off of just really high expectations for this earnings report. You compare what Nvidia looks like to, I don't know, AMD or Micron or obviously SNCI, but that thing's destroyed. There's some other stronger ones out there, even like a Broadcom's a little bit stronger, but still not as strong as Nvidia has been up here. So I think that with pretty much all these semiconductors right now, with the way that just with how hyped the sector itself is, that like an inline earnings report is not enough. I think if Nvidia reports inline, they sell it down, but Nvidia doesn't seem to ever report inline. They seem to absolutely crush over and over and over again. So it's not by any means a bearish call from me. I think that the chart looks fantastic. The company is still incredible. I'm not expecting any slowdown from them at this point. But I do think that there is a decent amount of hype built into the report.
So can I follow up on that?
Of
Please.
course.
Yeah. So we don't want to penalize a stock that actually has relative strength to the sector. So that's a good thing. What we don't want is not just relative strength, but also some kind of an accelerated move, because then that's not sustainable. That tells me that the short-term traders are getting all worked up about it and buying it. That's not what we want. We want actually relative strength, which means the institutions are all in, but they're not like jumping in ahead of earnings. So that's what I see when it comes to Nvidia. It's very, very bullish, has relative strength, which is a good thing. We don't want relative weakness. We do want relative strength, but without any kind of the hype that sometimes you see before earnings. So I like it, but we'll see how it looks next week. And I'll be making a call on it if it looks good in the newsletter.
Okay, I just want to pull up this headline, especially I wanted to ask JR about this because I thought this was one of the more interesting headlines we've seen. Larry Ellison and Elon Musk begged NVIDIA's Jensen Huang for more GPUs over a fancy sushi dinner. I know it's like reading too much into headlines, the whole Time Magazine cover indicator thing, but does this ever make you think we're like near the top in AI? things like this?
No.
Dazzling Dan says it's fake news.
There was a JP Morgan research report came out last week talking about $300 billion in investment in just data center construction in 2025. I think if anything, they're underestimating the potential growth there. I always like to say during a gold rush, the guy making all the money is the dude selling shovels. And in that regard, Nvidia is extremely well positioned. I think the bigger threat to Nvidia is going to be the further out development of competitive platforms, proprietary platforms by its current customer base. If you look at Nvidia's revenue table, all of its top buyers are the Mac 7, the Mac 7s, and that's going to be potentially a real headwind for Nvidia in the years to come, but not in the short term.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's going to bring us to the funnest part of our program. Let's talk ideas. So, Derrick, I actually screwed up last week and somehow excluded you from the end. So, what do you like here? What do you hate?
I just think that this market. So I like the market. Probably not for continuation yet this week. I think it needs a little bit more time. And I think if we get through, like I was saying before, the options expiration of this week, it'll have the effect of loosening the market up a little bit. That should coincide with the market building out almost like a perfect bull flag, and then we'll see if we can get upside continuation. So I'm really bullish on this market right now. The only thing I would say about that, though, and you still need to keep this in the back of your head, I warned about it last week, so back in your mind thought, is the interest rates in the dollar. I've always found it fascinating about, I've seen this happen so many times over the course of my career. Something noticeable is happening and the market doesn't care, and then the market doesn't care, and then the market doesn't care, and then all of a sudden one day it seems like almost out of the blue the market decides it cares. And a thing that I would pay attention to really is interest rates in the dollar. I think it's the only thing that can derail this rally. So I'm very bullish on this market overall. I'm expecting continuation. There's a tremendous amount of forced strong underlying demand into the end of this year, but if we really see this TLT chart, if it loses that November 6th reactionary low, if the 10-year starts really getting above 4.6%, and if the dollar, which has been going vertical, continues this move, I think at some point it might have a very negative knock-on effect on this market. So that's an if-then statement. Again, I'm bullish. I'm mentally ready to buy this bull flag as it breaks out. But if I really see interest rates, we know they hurt your small and your mid cap companies when they start to really increase. They're really increasing. The dollar, if anyone remembers the last time the dollar was having this move and we went into earnings season for the Mag 7 names, all the companies were missing because of FX concerns. And the market, I think, is very fair in giving a lot of companies a pass if they miss on numbers because of FX concerns, but it still creates a little bit of an earnings drag on these multinational companies that really make up our Mag 7 names. So again, overall, I'm super bullish. The market itself is one of the biggest things I'm focused on. Keeping in the back of my head that interest rates in the dollar at a certain point could derail this market. And if that happens, it could happen very, very fast. That might end up being like a January story and not a story for the next month and a half into the end of the year. And at the same time, I'm just loving this market. This is a trader's market right now. Tesla, the way it's moving, Palantir, the way it's moving, these crypto names, the way that they're moving. There's opportunity to absolutely crush these things on some of these breakouts to the long side. Then there's opportunities to come in on the other side when they get too extended, like we've done with Tesla, like I'm doing with Palantir today. I just filled some on the bid as we're talking. I'm loving this market. So I'm looking for price corrections on some of these, I think, overextended stocks, but I'm also looking for the market itself to continue at a certain point, which can create the opportunity to really build into further longs again for continuation.
Okay, thank you, Derrick. Okay, JR, we'll move on to you. So last week, and because it's you, JR, I'd like you to also comment on IWM. JR and I have had very ugly confrontations over IWM this year. But last week you said it looked good, and it's been up. So do you still like IWM? And what else do you see out there?
I'm like I've turned into a small cap mega bull. You know, the Capitol Riot shaman with the horns. I'm donning the outfit at this point. I think
I'll give you the hammer.
I think it's going to be a really strong year for small caps. I'm less concerned. I'm watching the 10-year and the dollar rise every day in total bemusement, along with Derrick, as the market continues to grind higher. However, I'm less concerned about it. I think what this market is pricing in is that wage growth and GDP growth will actually find a way to outpace inflation. So I think the calculus for a lot of market participants has changed with the election of Donald Trump. Again, not making a political statement, but I think this market is now pacing in a different pace of growth, and especially wage growth. And so I'm less concerned about it. And I think this is ridiculous. My SPX target for first quarter is 6,700 based on the measured move. Tom Lee's at 6,300. It makes me very uncomfortable when I'm more bullish than Tom Lee, but that's what the chart is saying. IWM looks great. I like the payment processors. I think Square in a more deregulatory environment. Can I share my chart real quick?
Sure, of course you can.
It's already shared. Okay, so Square, basically classic Wyckoff type of accumulation, multi-year base. You have an initial sign of strength out of a really tight consolidation here, and I'm thinking of hiring a voodoo priest here to give us a pullback to the high 79 handle for a sort of a curling wedge reversal and a big measured move and extension to 148, 150.
That's very bold. I like that a lot. Thank you very much.
I like Square a lot. Yeah, I have good feelings about Square.
And as we all know, if there's one thing you're going to trade on, it's feelings. Okay, Sami, how about you? Sami actually gave us some crazy names like GEVO, short, and grab long last week. So Sami and I actually had a little chat over instant message. I said I felt like there's not much out there that looks good, but Sami, does anything actually look good anymore?
I'll show my charts. Are my charts on? Okay, now they're on. So there's not a lot. Mike and I were talking about Twilio. I run the strategic swing trader newsletter. We have 2 positions in the Twilio. We have 2 positions in the Zoom. They're getting climactic. Those are the ones that I've been talking about for a while because of the monthly and the weekly. I mean, just look at that weekly. Looks amazing. That's Zoom. Twilio looks even better. So some of these charts are really late now to get in, including the Docu, including the Square at the moment. But check out the Affirm. Check out the monthly 1, 2, 3 on this one. We already have a position in it in the newsletter, but that's not too late. The other things are late. I think the Affirm has room to 150. Maybe it has, maybe it goes to 100. But I love the Affirm. I'm in PayPal also, but I like Affirm a lot more. That's the longer term. Short term, I like the AUTR. I think is the symbol. Is it? It's on my watch list somewhere. Is it AUTR? No, that's not the symbol. I have a call on it in the newsletter. Well, I'll just check my account real quick because it should be an open order. It is ATUS. Sorry about that. ATUS. So I have a call on this one. It's trying to transition again in the short term. I think it looks good. There's a breakout happening. So over the base, stop down here. So I like this one. I like the med on the data chart, though it's a little bit, deep pullback. But that's a buy setup on the MED. So I like that one in the short term. I think the S is looking good short term, short to medium term. And I think the ZIM looks really good long term, but it's not quite ready for, I'm not ready to get in it. But that's looking good. If it can base for another week or 2 or 3, then it might be ready to pop. But my favorite longer term right now, that's not like totally late, because all the plays that I have are way too late, would be Affirm. So that's kind of what I like.
Beautiful. Excellent. Okay. Everybody out in the audience, out in the world, thank you for joining us. And I hope you all realize out there that you've just experienced magic. So let us know in the comments what you thought of the beautiful show today. And also, if anybody out there knows what MSTR does and can explain it in plain English, please drop it in the comments below. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Take care.